Hello, this is going to be a thorough Wave Sun tutorial. Uh, it's not scripted or anything, nothing fancy, we're just gonna do a tutorial on this. So, uh, there are two ways to get Wave Beam and Sun together, and one way is to do it inbounds by getting infinite speed and Chapel of the Elders after Wave Beam, and then bringing that infinite speed to Chosawai's Temple, uh, boosting the Chapel Tunnel to get the artifact, and the other way is going out of bounds. And you can pick up Wave Beam and the artifact at the same time. But to do that, you have to go out of bounds. And you start by going to this room. You do this after Boost Ball, so if I had collected the Boost Ball pickup, you would have rolled off and hit the Ridley cutscene. And after you hit the Ridley cutscene, it actually puts you in the perfect spot to do the Secret World, which is it puts you roughly right around here. And the thing we want to use for the Secret World is this scan point here. We want to do a scan dash all the way over to this part of the map. All this is standable. Thing is that doing it with a dash all the way from there is a little tough. I did it there because I got a pretty strong dash. You can undo this if you're really confident, but I don't even do it just because it's also kind of slow. And the position that, after the Ridley cutscene, what it puts you in is a position where you can do a combat strafe. One combat strafe. It'll put you near the edge of this. Sometimes I even, after doing the combat strafe, hold to the left near the end of it, just to make sure I don't go too far. I should probably save my position. So, I strafe and I hold left to kill some of my speed, but depending on your micro positioning, it may not matter, but I still hold to the left just for safety. So after this strafe, then you do a dash over to roughly around here. Your dash doesn't have to be as good as you were here, which makes it easier. So we're going to dash over to this area. And this is the main step in getting the Secret World. From here, roughly around here, if you if you are a higher level runner looking to optimize things more, you can bend your dash forward so you can land closer over here. It's a little bit more difficult, obviously, but it is faster. But if you're a beginner just learning, I recommend doing an R dash for this. Maybe bending it forward a bit, but if you're not comfortable with those, you can do a regular dash. Bending it forward might be a little bit risky just because it means you have more distance to cover. So if you don't bend it, that means you will not have as much distance to cover. So just see what you prefer to do depending on how comfortable you are in your dashes. So from here, from wherever you are, you can either walk over to this area, maybe jump around a bit to save some time. Try to avoid the left side here because all of this doesn't have collision, so you'll just fall off. There is a spot here which does have collision, which if you fall in, you will get stuck. I think I'll talk about... we'll see if we end up talking about what to do if you get stuck there, but regardless, just try not to fall in there. And we're going to want to jump up here, roughly around this point. You do not have to walk across. A faster strat is to, typically what I like to do is dash off of this platform, but you can also dash off of this one. Either of them work. You can also dash off the snow cone if you really want to, but I personally prefer this one because you don't have to turn as much, and it's also at a better angle than like this point, and it doesn't rely on the flicker bets. So I like to do this and then bend my dash to get closer. Sometimes I like to retain the lock-on, or after letting go of it, I go back to it and I do another dash to get to this point. You don't have to do that if you're a new player. You don't have to R-dash it, but doing these dashes at all can optimize some of that travel time. So, do this all in one fluid motion. That wasn't great. I messed up the lock-on. There we go. That's how I like to do it. Personally, pretty fast, pretty clean. Alright, so now is this section. So I wish I had like a collision viewer, but we're going to go through this. There is a point in the collision here where the model stops matching the collision. It's about right here. And thing is like in this game, if you fall off, you aren't able to control which direction you're going. So we need to jump and then fall through and then land on this door. That can be tricky for some players because you can't see what you're doing, and a lot of times you'll run into situations where you jump early and end up landing on the collision when you think you're going to fall, and you can't save yourself. If you fall down here, recovering is really slow and takes a long time. And I'll go over that in a bit, but we're going to focus on this section here. So what I recommend is that there's a distinct slope here. You can line up roughly around where this line is, I think. I personally don't use a lineup just because I've tended to like eyeball it, but one thing you could try and do is once you're higher than this missile, I think is an okay rule of thumb. You can jump through it and generally be safe. You can't shoot through it. I guess you can. You can shoot this and get an idea of where it is if you really want to. But it's slow. And also you can kind of do something on a slope jump against this to do it. So maybe if you want, you can create your own lineup, or you can do this jump a whole lot to get used to it. And you do want to specifically use just your first jump. You don't want to use space jump early here, because then you're not going to have as much time to direct yourself towards the door. There, I couldn't even make it. So you want to make sure you do this with just your first jump. So you want to hold right, or you can also do like upright. Upright here, there's more collision that you have to deal with. So I like to hold right here, go through this collision, and then hold left. Usually you want to be like after the dash here, my view will already be on the right. And usually if you get a good dash, you'll land in a spot where you can do your jump. There I was looking a bit far to the left, so I'd probably move back a bit. If you're a better player than... If you really want to optimize things, you can maybe like let go of L and try to gain some speed, but holding L the entire time during this is the safest bet. So you can hold down right if you think you need to move back a bit, or just right. And then as soon as you're past the collision, hold up left and land on the door. I think that's all there is to it for that strat. So now we're going to focus on the door. So we need to force load this room. To force load a room, you shoot the door that you're standing on, and then you go in like the door open trigger range. You should see on the radar at the top left there are now 2 more orange blips. Those are the bombus in the room. That's how you can tell if the room is loaded as soon as they appear, and you can also tell if you successfully force loaded if the door changes the color to blue, but that's not a hard and fast rule. Sometimes the room will be loading. If you are playing on a disc, and you may be able to hear your Wii as the room loads. It'll make some clanking noises. So 2 things you can do to transition the room. Just move to the right. You'll move up this little ledge here, and that'll transition the room. You can also jump and move to the right. You'll get stuck sometimes, depending on when you jump, and you won't get up the ledge depending on what you want. So we need to make sure that the minimap at the top right stays on the temple entryway here. Sometimes if you jump on this side of the door, you will transition back to Pinjarra Shoreline. This is what we don't want. Keep an eye on the minimap, take a peek every now and then when you have a second just to make sure. So now that we've transitioned this room, what we need to do is we need to get to Chosen Temple. But the load trigger for the next room is not very viable to hit from out of bounds. So what we want to do is load the room the same way we did this room by force loading it. Thing is, if you do that, the game will crash, but by occluding this room, it won't crash. And the way you can occlude a room is by shooting the door the same way you would force load a room, and then going to where the door would open around it, and that will make this room go invisible or occlude the room, secretize door dump. There's a lot of different terms, but occlude I think is the most modern. So again, shoot the door. This force loads the room. After you see like the radar blips in the top left appear, you can jump to transition to the room and hold right, or just hold to the right, and then either from this side of the door here, or like this ledge, or up the side of the door towards the tunnel, you jump and you shoot the door. You can do that before or while you're jumping. It's easier to do it before jumping, and then you go to the side the same way you would force load the room to occlude it. I'm gonna do this, and then we're gonna just. Oops, I did not mean to go in the save station. I'm gonna do the entire thing in so like one seamless segment, just so it gives you an idea of what it's gonna look like for once you're more confident in it. I nearly ran into a collision there. If you get too far forward, you might bump into collision. Oops, sorry, Flickerbat. Oh wow, I'm very good at this game. You get the idea, I think. Here, let me do that again. That was embarrassing. Maybe I'll cut this part out, or I'll let you guys bear witness to me trying to teach how to do this and then not being able to do this. Oh, that's funny. So there's a spot there that can eat your jump. That I've consistently had that happen to me, but it will not happen because of the Ridley cutscene for players, which is great. There we go. Cool. Also, if you are fast enough, you could actually shoot this door and force load it as you're falling from the top there, which is pretty hard to do. I mean, I could do it just because I've done this wall crawl many times, but it's still not the easiest thing to do. Oop, do not get stuck. There's some of the collision that's down here that can be really annoying to get out of. So we're gonna just share that real quick. That was a good thing to go over that I didn't think about. If you are going for it, for the record, try to jump early, like around here, because that means you're spending more time falling, or rather you're spending less time higher up, and that means you have more of a window to use your space jump once you fall down there. So it's just, there we go, and now the room is lit. So again, move to the right to transition, or jump and hold to the right. So we're gonna jump here. We made sure to stand on this side of the door, shut the door, and now it's occluded. Okay, moving on. This room's very simple. So there's walkable collision extending out in this room in a lot of places. So you can, if you want, just walk straight to the door, or to be faster and not that much riskier, you can morph and roll, and also boost. You don't really need to worry about falling. The walkable collision extends out super far. There's never really any risk of falling. So after transitioning the room, you jump up here, you can morph, and you can boost. And we need to go over and land on top of this door. And you can unmorph early and fall into the Aether. Because if they're like level with each other, you can very easily just fall between them. You can also roll and unmorph into the Aether, or you can unmorph early. Either way, you just need to make sure you fall far down enough to reach the door. If you are a experienced player, you can do sort of like a combination. I like do something a bit riskier. So typically what I do is I do 2 boosts and then fall and hold backwards to land on the part. You can also do 3 boosts, but sometimes you go a bit too fast and you want to hold backwards on the control stick to control your speed. My boosting time wasn't good there, hold on. to actually get like the value out of the free boost, you need to be pretty good with your timing. So there I went really far because I had a lot of speed. The room won't load, so you don't need to worry about like it loading around you. That's the idea of it. Either walk or boost to the door. So if you fall into the Aether, just hold left very slightly, so that way you will slip. Or actually, I guess not. I guess with the way this collision works, you're always going to end up either on the collision or the Aether. So yeah, I guess what you want to do is you want to use Morphball to get onto the door, or low into the Aether. So when you roll or boost off here, like let's do this, remember that when you're morphed in the Aether, you'll fall. So just delay your unmorph a tiny bit. Like, you don't need to really think about it, you'll probably end up below it. But as long as you don't unmorph instantly as soon as you enter the Aether, you'll be low enough that you can just fall into the door. And just like the other side, this has a little bit of a ledge above the door. And the thing is with this ledge is that we're no longer in the Aether box of Phendrana Shorelines, such as this room's Aether box. And when you land on this ledge and you do a jump, you're gonna go into the Aether ceiling and have to fall down again. This can be pretty annoying. So when you are trying to, we have to force load this room again. When you're trying to force load it, you're actually not able to jump from this ledge. You have to jump from the door. So you can land on, you have to make sure you land on the door. If you land on this ledge, hold left. You could try and hold hard left, but you'll end up just going back in the Aether and not sliding onto the door. So you need to make sure you hold a slightly soft input left, or go into the Aether and then hold a soft input right to land on the door. Or obviously, again, you can also use Morphball to land on the door, as long as you just time your unmorph. It's a pretty lenient way you can do that too. Or obviously, again, land on the door from here directly, but that's a little bit trickier. So, now that we're on the door, same thing as before, we're going to force load it. Just make sure not to blend into the Aether on your left. Make sure you are aligned, I guess, parallel to this side of the door. If you move even slightly left, you're going to fall into the Aether, and you're not going to be able to force load it. You may also end up falling here a lot of the time, and that's okay. It's time loss, but it's definitely at the end of the wall crawl. You just gotta wait for a little bit until you see the arm cannon start bobbing, because we're gonna be rising until we hit the floor of the Aether box, and then once you see that, just spam B, and then make sure you time your jumps correctly, because in order to get the maximum amount of height you need to make sure you don't space jump too early. Like if I just, hold on, after I get my jump, I'm gonna try and chill this. So I'm just gonna mash B. Okay, they're actually in the collision of that room. Okay, there you can see I didn't get enough height. So don't worry about the fact that the room went invisible. We accidentally transitioned to the next room, but here I'm gonna try and space out my jumps. There we go. Okay, but now that the room is force loaded, while the room is force loading, you can once again keep an eye on the radar. You see the orange blips. Wait for them to appear. Then after they appear, you can just jump to the left here. That'll transition the room. Unlike the other one, the ledge here is not great at getting on top of. At some angles you seem to be able to do it, but what I just recommend is just jumping to the left. That'll consistently transition the room. And then there are a few different ways to climb this room. This room is a bit more complex. So you can first start, the room is invisible, boom, now it's appeared. What should you do? Well, first step, I'd say for every player, you can turn to face the room or do that as you're doing this next step. And that step is to do a space jump, then near the top of your height, just flip to the left a tiny bit. Because there's a bit of standable collision here, but if you go too far, you'll end up stuck here. If you do end up stuck, don't panic. As long as you haven't held arm in air, you're fine. Just hold the L button and then flick to the right a bit. That'll inch you closer back to the standable collision. So again, from here, you transition the room. As soon as you transition, you can jump up to the standable, by the way. Or you can transition so you can see what you're doing better, then do that jump. Okay. Then, regardless of what you do, you need to make sure that your camera angle, or that you turn the camera so that you are facing the center of the room. You can do that after you've landed, or you can do that mid-jump, kind of like this. Something similar like that. You can also, after you force load the room, and let's say like we're here, we're waiting for the room to load. There's going to be black in front of you. You look at the top left and you see the orange blips appearing. You do that space jump and you flick forward to land on the standable. Okay. So the next part. So if you're just trying to do this wall crawl just like for the sake of it being cool and not doing it for like the sake of a speedrun, you don't have to do a lot of what I'm about to do. Because generally you're pretty safe if you just go into walls and bomb jump up them. But that's pretty slow, and also it can still be pretty awkward. So here's the speedrunner's way of doing it. First I want to point out is that this sort of line of standable collision extends out a fair bit. It doesn't quite matter to us because this next step is going to work regardless of where you're standing. But if you have trouble with this next bit, you can take advantage of this collision. But regardless, from here we need to go around to this sort of like arc in the wall. It sticks out and it has some standable terrain on top of it. So if you're a bit of a new player, I would recommend sort of facing it roughly, and then you can hold the L button to go around onto it. Make sure that you go directly on top of it, because if you're a bit to the side, you're going to slide off. If you do slide off, you can attempt to bomb jump back up. This collision isn't the most friendly for it though, so a lot of the time you end up just going to fall. This jump can be tricky for some. You can also let go of L if you're a bit better, a bit more confident at your L jumps. You can sort of L jump into it and then bend it. Use upright to turn the camera to face it as you're moving. You'll gain some speed, you'll be able to see where you're going. It might be trickier for a newer player who's still learning how to bend L jumps, but if you are pretty good at that, you can do this. That's what I do in my runs. It's pretty fast. You don't even have to turn. You can see that I did jump directly left, but I still bend upright, because that gives me more momentum around the corner. That makes it easier. If I just hold L, you'll notice that I get to it a little bit later, and sometimes I won't even make it, and a lot of times I end up in the wall. Bending makes it so that you're further away from the wall, but you still have good enough speed to reach the pillar. So, again. And you can turn a little bit left to make this even easier. If you're not confident in your L jumps, you can turn, try and face like roughly around what this is, and use L. You may not be able to see where you're going. You can also do it from here, or you can try and walk near the edge of the standable collision. Just be careful not to fall, because it extends about slightly past this door. So you can try going to that and jumping into it that way. But I personally don't recommend it. So again, we're gonna jump up to our standable here. You can also preemptively look to the left before you're doing it, and then you can bend your L jump that way, or you can hold L the entire time. It's just a little bit riskier. Okay. So from here, next step is pretty simple. You could jump to this next pillar, which is okay, but personally I wouldn't recommend it. And instead we're going to jump to the seam that's above us, and seams are just the edges of collision most of the time, and generally they are standable, this one included. So if you're a beginner trying to be careful here, you can do a space jump, double jump here, and hold to the right, and you can align yourself with this seam. From here, we need to get to the edge of the seam. So if you see where this sort of rectangle is, you can go roughly to where this is for our next step. If you are a more advanced player and you're confident, you can do that jump without while moving forward. It's technically a bit more risky because if you try to move towards it too directly, you'll end up hitting the wall. And if you do that, you'll lose all your vertical speed. So it's a bit riskier, but if you feel more confident, you can do that. Or if you're trying to be safe, you can do it the other way. Regardless, though, we need to end up at this point. And from here is where we have to deal with some more janky collision. Water break. So we need to actually jump to this sort of alcove. But the thing is that we need to actually use the seam of this wall here. And this wall isn't like a flat wall, so it's more weird. So I'm just going to jump to it to show you what I mean. So you can't really see what you're doing, but it's more or less just a line that you need to follow. It looks weirder than it actually is, but it still can be a little unintuitive because sometimes you'll move just a little bit too far to the right and get stuck. If this ever happens to you while you're walking, this bobbing up and down animation makes it so that Samus is briefly in the air. So if you have forward held while she's in the air, she'll end up moving towards that. You can also bomb jump. Just be a little bit careful, but both of those strats work. So if you're a beginner, you can try and just jumping towards it. You can also stop early, even if you get stuck in the collision, because since you're still holding L and you're not limited influence, you can just inch your way toward the collision, like so. If you're more advanced, you can do something similar with the pillars and bend your way towards it. A bit faster, it's a bit more speedy, and you can also bend until you are facing the standable collision. So all you have to do is L jump forward. So yeah, once you are on this collision, just try and be roughly just... It's hard to describe this. If you have Prime World Editor, I highly recommend looking at this collision yourself. But generally it's just kind of following a line drawn above them. It's easy to be too far right, but it's also easy to be too far left and fall down. So it's nicer, it's better to be too far to the right and get stuck here than it is to be too far to the left and fall down. So yeah, I'm just going to show my bending. We want to get to this point. Or you can also just jump straight to it like this. And also face down to look at where you're going. Regardless, we want to end up at this point. Now, there are two different methods of climbing the room from here. The first method is the method that I use for the longest time. It's the easier method. We're going to take advantage of this wall. Now you notice that like the wall sort of like bends here. We want to make sure that we are not using this wall. We want to use the wall where it is bending here. It's facing this way. So there's this sort of platform thing, and we want to land on the seam of it here. The way we can do that is by hugging the wall and then bomb jumping up it. So I'm gonna bomb jump, or I'm gonna jump and turn so that I am facing this wall now. And after I have done this, I'm going to morph, still holding forward so I'm stuck in the wall, and then I'm going to lay a bomb. So if you lay a bomb and continue holding forward, you're going to get a little bit of height. You can technically keep bomb jumping here until you get caught out. Like this. There we go. There I moved a little bit far forward. This isn't a problem. Again, hold L and slide like this. Just as long as you haven't held R. There we go. But a faster method. Oops, I'm a bit too far down. Oh, shoot. That's okay. So if you are a little bit more confident in your bomb jump timing, what you can do instead of laying multiple bombs is lay one bomb and then let the stick go neutral when the bomb explodes, which makes it so that you're no longer holding into the wall, so you won't lose your speed almost immediately after getting hit by the bomb. And then what you can do is flick forward just a tiny bit near the peak of your height and then unmorph. And what this does is it puts you at the perfect spot to land on the seam. Now, this can be tricky, and you don't have to put all those together. For instance, if you're doing the one bomb, you can still hold all the way forward, and you'll still go too far. But again, you can do that recovery I mentioned earlier. Be careful not to hold R here, or else you'll enter that bobbing animation where you'll either have to bomb jump or do that slow flicking forward out. But regardless, our goal is to land on the seam. That is the more accessible way of doing it and the way I recommend. So again, mash some bombs until you see the morph ball pop out. There you go. If you go too far forward, just flick back onto the seam. Be careful not to go too far. The faster alternative. Move the wall. And then letting the stick go at neutral just before the bomb explodes. You do have a window after holding neutral where the morph ball will not move, but if you have it at neutral for too long, you will fall. If you do fall, hold forward again, so you get stuck in the wall again. But yeah, that's the strat. And now that we've landed on the seam, what we want to do is we want to navigate to this spot, and there are a couple ways to do that. The first, arguably better way is to do an R jump to this, and the collision on this is very forgiving. It lets you walk around on it pretty far, even pretty far on the right side. But safe. But technically, you do not have to R jump this. You can get a good L jump and make it there. But by good L jump, I mean like pretty damn good L jump. And I have seen some beginner runners do this. I've seen them have some success with it, but the L jump is a lot more tight. And even if you're just doing an R jump without turning, it's still a lot safer because you're building up just a little bit more speed. So even just doing that might be good. But even if you just turn a little bit, like in the notch, you know, like, and then holding up, it's just so much safer. Another strat that you can do is using the collision from these bomb slots areas. So one thing you can try and do is land on the seams of these. One strat that I actually used to do is I actually used to use the collision of the bomb slot itself to land here and then jumping to this. I do not recommend this, but if you try it and it just clicks with you, then go for it. I've definitely had a run end where something like that happens trying to do it, but if you really like it for some reason, then you can do it. I just highly recommend R jumping to this. So, now that we're here, our plan is pretty simple. Again, the collision here is very forgiving. We just want to land on this door, and the room adjacent to this is already going to be loaded by the time you get here. So, you just want to land on the door. Like, again, this collision here is pretty forgiving. Just make sure you don't go too far forward or too far back. But from here, you either land on the door or you land on this, and all you have to do is make sure you get on the door and then just hold right. That'll transition the room. You don't have to jump. You can if you want to, but I don't recommend it because it's unnecessary. And if you hold right, you'll end up on this little ledge. And from here, we want to just go directly back to where we were before because we just transitioned the room to Chapel Tunnel, which is the key thing in making this work. So from here, typically you'll be facing this way. You can actually just jump directly backwards and you'll be able to land on the collision, but it can be a little bit risky, especially if you are just doing this out of bounds and you don't have the standable terrain where it is memorized, so you're free to just turn around and jump back onto it. Then, this is technically optional, but it does save time. is while we're here, we can shoot out the pillars that you normally use morph ball bombs to blow up. I only get one chance to show this, or else I would have to reload the room. But these pillars, you can destroy both sets of pillars. However, most people typically do not blow up the rightmost because the angle for it is a little bit precise and unintuitive. And after you perform the trick, it's very easy to get them on the way out, and you will see why later. So I'm only gonna tell you how to destroy this set, and this set's pretty easy. So thing is that you don't want to missile like directly on it, because it's not really the spot where the hit detection is. So you actually want to do it slightly left of it, around this spot. You can also do it like roughly here, I think would work. But that roughly left of it is where you want to be. You don't want to be too far left, and you want to make sure that you're on the same level as it. But if you do it like right on it, I don't think it'd really work. Yeah, you can see there, that didn't really work. Also, make sure you have enough missiles. Sometimes I've come in runs and I've noticed that I'm short a few missiles, and you're gonna need at least one to destroy this thing. So over here, left side, you know, rapid fire missile is faster. Don't fire them in immediate quick succession, because you need to wait just a little bit for the other pillar to fall down. That's only if you're trying to go really fast. Otherwise, this spot, fire one missile, just wait just a little bit, fire the second, and now that pathway is open for you after you do the trick. So now we turn back to this bomb slot. Make sure to missile it first. Some people will also missile it while they are doing the jump to this spot. I personally don't really do that. I've done that sometimes. It kind of just depends on how I'm feeling. It's sort of just the muscle memory kicks in for one or the other, what I prefer. Doing it during the jump is obviously a little bit more risky. You need to have better control over what buttons you're pressing. I personally just recommend doing it after you get to this spot, after you've done everything and you're ready to get in bounds. So, we need to do a ceiling warp, and we need to do it inside this bomb slot. And this is where a lot of things can go wrong. First things first, something you can do that kind of a lot of people overlooked is you can actually very easily get inbounds by using the wall here. And that's just by rolling down into it and unmorphing. So I'm going to try doing that. I didn't like that. I have soft locked. I think you're supposed to boost for this. So if you roll into it and then... What the heck's the other thing? I swear there's a thing. I'm not going crazy. Maybe I'm going crazy. So there is a method of getting in bounds by rolling into this wall. I have never really done it. I don't personally use it because it would be slower. But apparently there's a very easy way to get in bounds. Using that, I don't recommend it. I'd recommend learning this. And getting in bounds here, the trick to it is that... So, I'm assuming, if going into this video, you may be familiar with the ceiling warp, but if not, when you are in a room that is not the current room that you are transitioned to, there can be some funky properties, and that includes being able to go through some collision if you have enough speed. And this bomb slot here is sloped, and sloped spots are perfect places to ceiling warp. So there are two ways to do it. First thing, most of this is not standable, but when you jump onto it, as long as you don't hold R, you're not in limited influence, you can slide up and down on it. The very bottom of it, this is the very edge of it, is a seam that you can stand on. This spot, it makes it so that the ceiling warp becomes very easy, but landing on the spot can be risky, especially because there are some spots where if you hold back you'll fall, but there are also just as many spots where you'll get stuck and you hold back and you won't fall. It can vary. I'm honestly not sure what makes the difference. If you do land on this seam, all you have to do is enter Morph Ball, hold forward, and then unmorph immediately afterwards. I didn't unmorph immediately afterwards, so we're gonna do that. Oops, I landed off the seam. Let me try it again. There we go. There we go. So, something you might notice is when I landed on that seam and I morphed, it sort of looked like my Morph Ball went through the collision there. Boom, there, you saw that. And, actually let me also turn on my velocity. So, if you pay attention to the velocity here when I morph, you'll notice that it went up there after I completed the morph animation. That's because I fell through the collision just a bit. And if you unmorph briefly afterwards while you still have some of that speed, that is what enables you to move through the collision into the bomb slot. So there can be times where you land not on that seam and you land pretty high. So for this spot, for instance, if you just unmorph the same way you went on the seam, you won't be able to make it through because you don't have enough speed and you're not on the collision that's good for it. Like, seams are very good. They're very good spots for getting something called ghost state, but that's a complicated topic we're not going to talk about. So if you land too high, you have two options. One option is to hold backwards until you land on the seam. This can be risky because if you hold all the way backwards, you're typically going to have so much speed that you don't fall into the seam, just fall off. So you need to be comfortable with getting a soft input for that. So I'm soft inputting here. I see that the camera sort of bobs down there. That's a sign I land on the seam. I also can't hold backwards for landing on it. So that means I have landed on the seam and I am good to morph and see it work. Option 2 is to, if you're not on the seam, but as long as you're not super high, you can morph and then boost once and then unmorph. That is a method preferred by many. Some people who are so used to boosting may even do it on the seam. Sometimes if you're on the seam and you boost, you'll end up moving up the slope, which is bad because you are not putting that speed towards the collision, and you will not be able to silly warp through that way. There is also a secret third strat that is more high level, and that is taking advantage of gravity. Because if you morph midair, you'll have a bunch of speed from falling, and because of that, you'll run into the slope with a whole lot of speed. Risks, obviously if you morph too early, you're gonna fall, and that's pretty bad. And also, if you do it at the wrong angle, you may run into this, and it may send you backwards. You may also not, I don't know, just like somehow like get your speed killed, and not make it through. I'm not sure on that one. I did that earlier, and I wasn't sure how that happened, but this also means that you can land much higher than the seam and still make it through, like so. I actually made it through, but I didn't quite make it through. If you are a high-level player looking to improve your strat, then you can mess around with that. It's pretty fast, it's pretty satisfying, but it is also more risky. So yeah, those are all the strategies of getting through into this bomb slot. So, again, there's the line from high. There is one more thing that I'd like to cover, is that if you are really high, this can happen, where boosting will not work, and sometimes you'll get an instant unmorph. Here, what you have to do is you have to hold towards the seam to make it so that you have less height. You can move down just a bit to make it so that you're in boost ball range, or you can move it all the way to the seam. That point where you're too high is like roughly like this this line where the slope is. It's roughly like halfway above that is the point where you're too high and you will not be able to make it through. So keep that in mind. Figure out what works best for you. Personally, I recommend getting used to just boosting through. It's the safest, or the generally most consistent method for beginners that I see, but just be wary of accidentally boosting up too high. The seam arguably is also really safe if you are comfortable with soft inputs. If you are, then the seam is very safe. I would not recommend as a newer player to try and land directly on the seam, because it's very easy to misjudge it, and also very easy to miss. You can if you want to, just be careful. Alright, so after doing that, you'll be force morphed and probably, hopefully, sucked into the bomb slot. And we want to activate and open this gate. Now, the room is currently still set to be in Chapel Tunnel here, which means we can do the infinite speed part of the trick. And there are two different ways of doing this. The first, and arguably the easiest one, is to look directly at this wall here. And the spots for doing this can vary. Some spots work, some don't. Generally, I like to look at the wall and just look a bit, be a bit to the right of the bomb slot, based on like this V shape. You can also try and be roughly directly below it. Some spots will work. I just try to be a bit to the right, and that's always worked for me. So after you make sure that you're hugging the wall, very important, and facing directly towards it, you know, not really at an angle, you're gonna morph, and you're just gonna hold left. And there are a couple different things to look out for. For one, oops, accidental power mode. For one, when you're holding left, you want to make sure that the morph ball does not spin in this particular animation, because it kind of looks like it's just a spinning top. The morph ball has this sort of consistency to the animation. So that probably means I was off a little bit, so I'm going to turn my camera so I'm facing a little bit further left. I'm going to do the same thing. There, it didn't work. One thing you can also do that seems to help the consistency is to hold forward while morphing, so you get a different animation. There, it didn't work. So we're going to adjust our spot and also look a bit more to the left. That was not a good spot. Let's try being over here. No. The direction, okay, so more directly below the bomb slot here worked. So, holding forward there worked, not holding forward there worked. Okay, so if you did it right, when you hold left, you'll see it sort of go into this diagonal spin, and the longer you hold it, you'll sort of see the morph ball almost slow down, and sort of looks like it's turning the other direction. This can look different if you're playing on 30 FPS, but hopefully if you got a good setup, you should be playing at 60. But it'll have this sort of animation. And from here, you literally just hold this for 50 seconds until the ball turns into this glowing blue orb, which I'll show later. But this is the animation you want to look out for. You want to make sure you're holding exactly left on the notch. If you see that it's not doing this and you're trying to really optimize your time, you need to unmorph immediately and get into a better spot. It's typically easy. It gets easier to spot as you've done this more times. So that's the first spot. The second spot is in this corner. Now the angle for this, I don't really do it in a way where it's a lineup. There is a lineup, but to be honest, I don't know it. I usually just eyeball it because it's pretty easy, but the spot that I'm currently in works for me, and you'll notice sort of like this black line here in the wall that my crosshair is running over. If you line up the very right edge of it, that would work. So this one is faster with an asterisk. The position you have to go out of your way for a little bit more, it's a little tiny bit more precise. Unlike this one unlike the other one, where you were holding left, this one you have to hold at a more uncomfortable angle, and that's very slightly down left. So here it is when I'm holding left. I'm gonna roll the stick very slowly to the down left notch. There. So this animation, this is actually a good learning point. I went a little bit too far, and oop, okay, there's the right spot. But I'm trying to go and actually do this incorrectly. So you can see that there's a consistency again in the morph ball. It doesn't ever slow down or looks like it's turning the other direction. It just kind of has this consistency to it that doesn't appear when we're actually getting infinite speed. So again, I'm gonna, there we go. It is just below the left notch, and you have to hold this angle. You can roll delicately back to the left notch, but what happens here is your speed gets gutted, and you lose a little bit of time to doing that. So if you are not able to hold that angle comfortably and consistently, then I recommend doing the method that is under the morph ball slot. But if you are comfortable at holding those weird angles, then I do recommend this one. So just for convenience sake, I'm going to go back and do this setup. So we're going to actually get infinite speed. Again, morphing into the wall, holding left. And if you don't know what the infinite speed is, it's constantly, you can see I have the rotational speed listed here. It is constantly building up rotational velocity as a result of getting stuck in morph ball. So it's just going to keep building and building and building for about 50 seconds. And then it's going to hit a 32 or 6, I think it's 32-bit floating point integer or something like that. Which I don't remember the exact amount. It's pretty big. And once it does that, your speed hits not a number. And when that happens, some really weird things can happen. And oh, there we go. We have not a number X speed, not a number Y speed, not a number Z speed, and not a number H speed. So here's infinite speed. This is how you can tell you got it. So the difference between the setup in the middle here and the setup on the left is that for the setup in the middle here, well, actually, let's say this first. The main effects of this happen if you have Boost Ball. And using Boost Ball here is what allows us to pick up the artifact and Wave Beam at the same time. Because this room is the one that we've set the room to, it allows us to get stuck in this room, and it keeps this room loaded. So Wave Beam is currently loaded, and this room loaded, which has the artifact. And boosting with not a number, with infinite speed, makes it so that you touch a whole bunch of loaded collision, depending on a lot of complicated factors. It's an okay rule of thumb to think that when you boost with infinite speed, you touch all loaded collision, but it's technically not true. But I don't know all the technical details of it. So for this spot here, before you can boost to do that, you actually need to lay a bomb. But for the setup on the left, after you get infinite speed, you can just boost. And as you're holding the angle, you can prepare Boost Ball. Also, flashing lights warning, kind of, by the way. This one, if I try to boost, okay, that did work. I think it was just because I was in the spot for so long. This is what happens when you do it. You pick up Wave Beam, but you've also picked up the artifact at the same time, which you don't see it, but it does happen. So yeah, and the fight does start, but the door is unlocked, so you can just leave. If you were doing it in a real run, you would have to lay a bomb and be hit by it before you could boost if you were in the middle spot. You can, if you know the exact time that it takes to get infinite speed from holding the direction. Time it so that you lay a bomb and it hits you just as you get the infinite speed. So there's technically no time lost compared to the other setup, but it can be finicky, and if you get hit by the bomb before infinite speed is obtained, you will lose speed, and that can be pretty slow. Okay, so those are the basics. We're going to go over some miscellaneous stuff here in a bit. We are quickly going to go over my quick little strat of just dashing off the Sheegoth, maybe even make it to the spot. Otherwise, you can roll to this or walk to it, jump to it. So remember that we destroyed the other pillars. We only have to get this one. This is the reason you probably wouldn't want to bother with destroying these from out of bounds, because they're right here in front of you. You can do a very easy strat here, either by laying 2 bombs here, not quickly in succession because once again you need to wait, and then using your 3rd bomb to escape. Or if you want to be fancy, you can actually use that same bomb you used to destroy the 2nd pillar to also escape. It's a bit trickier, I don't recommend it, and now the pathway is open. And there you go, you've done Wave Sun. And now we're real quick going to go over some extra strats, or extra notes, and there's 2 of them. One of them is just an alternative strat. The other one is a possible risk associated with doing the Secret World, and that is the sort of pit of death that's over here with the collision. And that's that this collision here is very awkward and very risky. Here it's a bit safer because it can tell that you're stuck, so it tries to reposition you to someplace safe, and it will typically position you onto the standable terrain. If that happens, consider yourself lucky. But on this spot here, it's very easy to fall down here. And as you can notice, I've stopped bobbing up and down, and that's because I'm in a really bad spot. And getting out of here, you can't jump. It's not going to put you in any standable terrain, so the only thing you can do is morph and bomb jump out. But if you try to bomb jump out, you will end up not moving because you're kind of stuck in a bunch of collision and you don't have anywhere to go. But if you've noticed, looking at the velocity when I lay a bomb, I actually gain some vertical velocity from getting hit by it. So you can spam bombs and keep unmorphing. And what this does is it does sort of inch you out with the very little airtime that you have. But this is pretty unreliable. So more than anything, this is just to show you how worried you should be and how careful you should be to not fall in here. Because I believe I've also soft locked in here before. This is technically not a soft lock because there is some time after morphing that you do inch forward a bit, which you can use. But again, really, really risky. Oops, I went a little too far. And then finally, I'm going to go over a alternative strat to bomb jumping up the wall. The reason I'm talking about it now and not then is because it's a very high level strat. And I do not recommend a beginner consider it. I did not start doing it for a very long time. And that is from here, instead of going to bomb jump up the wall, you are going to jump up to this pillar. And more specifically, you're going to go into the corner, because if you look at it, you can actually see that the pillar sticks... Actually, you can't see that. I think I'm trolling. But you can actually wedge yourself into the wall just a tiny bit so that your model can stand on the seam. And there's probably some technical details that I'm overlooking here. Someone could probably explain that better. But the idea of it is wedging yourself to land into the seam. And doing that is pretty tough. The way you do it is by wedging yourself into the corner with the pillar here. Where the pillar corner meets the wall is roughly where you want to jump. And thing is that you're just getting stuck in the wall here. How are you supposed to land on the standable? Well, you have to land on it while holding into the wall. So I'm just gonna... I was not in the right spot. I had a lot of speed in the wall. So I'm gonna try just doing it here. There we go. As you probably saw, the arm cannon bobbed a little bit. Now I'm actually on the standable. However, if I let go of the stick, I'm still gonna fall. How does that work? I don't know. But you need to, when you have made it into the wall here, you need to let go of the stick slightly so that you fall. And depending on your height, you'll need to fall less or more. But generally, you only have to fall just a little bit. Okay, there are the arm cannon bobs. You need to make sure you're holding up left the entire time. You can come at it at different angles where you're holding like forward here instead. I've just personally done it where up left is the way I go. So yeah, as you can see, even me trying to do it there, you have to be quite careful. It can be fast, but depending on how much time it takes for you to fall onto the standable from here, depending on how careful you're being, it may end up being slower anyways than the bomb jump. Okay. And plus the penalty for it is falling all the way by the room. Okay, but after you land on the standable, the way to go from here is that you need to hold away in order to jump out, because if you jump from here, you're not going to go anywhere. So you actually need to jump and then immediately after hold away. If you try to do that in the reverse order, you are just going to fall, because as soon as you get speed in the opposite direction, you will fall. It's kind of a seamless motion. You can do them at roughly the same time. It's pretty fast. It looks cool, but it's very hard. Very high level strat. Okay. And that's about it for this Wave Sun tutorial. I'm surprised at how long it was. I had a lot to say. This wall crawl has been very well optimized. Tons of strats. Yeah, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. Let me know if there was anything I could have done better, anything that you would want to know. Yeah, I will do this wall crawl from start to finish, just to show everything in the way that I like doing it. So again, we have the Ridley cutscene that would appear here, putting you in the perfect spot to do this double strafe dash. So we're going to jump early here to try and hit the door on the way down. Look for the red dots, or the orange blips on the radar to find see if the room loads. And we're going to occlude the room like so. Jump onto this and boost. I'm going to land on the door. You can also bomb the door on the way down if you want to damage it. So when the room loads, we're going to bend here to land on this pillar. Okay. We'll turn to face the wall. Bomb jump up. Hold the stick at neutral. Go. We're going to R jump over here. Jump, hold to right just to traverse the door. We jump back. We're going to shoot just to the left keys. Wait long enough. We're going to shoot this if it were here. Then we're going to... So let's go back and land on the seam to do this. And there we go. Then from there, we go here. We align ourselves roughly under this. And then hold left, see if we get the turn. And there we go. And we would do the same thing here. Let's align ourselves with our spot. Hold the awkward angle. And for 50 seconds. And then after we're done, we boost, pick up wave beam, and we get on our way. So yeah. Thank you for watching. Take care, gamers. Have fun playing Prime.